Wait, no, I need to be wearing a gun, right? Hey, what's up? I think I've been doing a pretty good job of having decently produced videos recently, at least compared to what I normally make. So, here you go. This might be one of the lowest produced videos, the lowest quality, the least informative video you're going to see in a long time from me. Hi, welcome to Brass Facts. We're subverting some expectations here today. We're doing it kind of, for the lack of a better term, risky-crisky style, sitting in front of the camera, ranting to you, the viewer, with basically no script, fueled by ADHD and a lack of self-control to not post this on the internet. No, it's cool. I guess I'm calling it risky-crisky style because I've been watching his videos a lot recently, and yeah, there's a healthy dolloping of schizo posting in his videos, but man, his heart's in the right place. The content is entertaining to watch, and it's kind of cool to just put along the side and watch a red-blooded American go to fucking town on like 12 different things in a video. So it's great stuff, and I wanted to get what I want to talk about today off my chest. I don't really have time to script this one up, nor do I really want to script this one up. But today I want to talk about, my last couple videos. I've been doing a lot of LPVO stuff just because that's how the reviews lined up. Got a lot of LPVOs recently. So a lot of people are, in my comment section, perhaps rightfully so, are saying the LPVO is dead, long reign the 2 to 10x. And I kind of wanted to address that because on paper, yeah, you got some points, right? The LPVO has a compromised, do I have an LPVO here? The LPVO has a compromised 1x, the LPVO has a compromised max magnification. So why don't we just ditch the low end, the 1x, and get a scope with a good top end, because, we don't have that low end, and then shove the best low end on a red dot sight on either like the 12 o'clock position or, offset off to the side, right? So now we have the best 1x and we have a good, if not quote unquote, the best uncompromised max magnification. I need an LPVO. I'll be right back. Okay, I want to talk about how, yes, this is certainly capable. This is a very capable optic. I've been shilling for this style of optic for quite some time in this SPR setup. But I think the industry may be going too far for the vast majority use cases, or for the vast majority of people looking to get into one of this, because they hear that argument I mentioned at the start of the video, and they're like, well, this is just strictly superior to this. And I don't really think that's true. Yes, on paper and in certain niches, it really excels. But that's the thing. Certain niches. Some things are weighted far more heavily than others, and an LPVO is far better than a lot of people give it credit for. Remember that analogy I sent in the Voodoo video. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, right? Because the most important factor is you, the shooter. I can give, one of these good shooters give T-Rex Arms a fucking night vision starlight scope from the 70s and tell him to run a fucking course of fire in the day. And with the daylight cap on, he'll probably smoke most people. But look over at the barrel and hatchet guys. They're running stuff like this and they're fucking smoking it because they're good shooters. Because at the end of the day, the biggest aspect is the shooter, right? And I'm not just saying that because, everyone's like, blah, 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 blah. It's the India, not the arrow. But it goes beyond that. In the context of gear, these things get us about 70% of the way there. Ironically, both primary arms. They get us 70% of the way there. Both of these are very good pieces of kit. I'm discussing the last 30% of performance. The intuitiveness of performance, if you want to call it that. And what the fuck is in my eyeball? Because I know a lot of people were in the position I was quite some time ago, where realistically, I can only afford to buy one new scope, a year, maybe. And that money could also be better spent on other things. So I want to do the best to inform you so you're as well squared away when you approach the purchasing decision with your limited funds, because you have a life outside of shooting, and that money does need to go to other things. So I want to give you the biggest picture possible so you don't fall into trends by accident. Because absolutely, it's not all trends are just bullshit, right? A lot of trends make sense. Buying a 2 to 10 right now is a trend. Buying an ACOG right now is a trend. And for some people, that trend won't let them down. It's a good trend. But for other people, they're going to buy into that trend, and about 6 months from now, they're going to realize, fuck, I bought the wrong scope. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So let's tie back to the topic at hand. This is being billed as the replacement for the LPVO. When you shoot a rifle, the most natural position to use the rifle is squared up, center lined. You bring your face down so you make full contact with the stock, and you use what I call the center line aiming solution, which would be this optic. The center line primary optic of this is not the red dot, it's this, because that is naturally where the rifle has been designed to use optics. Now, we can raise the height a little bit to get more heads-up shooting style, so instead of this, you get a little more, this. So in a real shooting scenario, when you are tracking 20 different things in your head, like, hey, do I need to peel left, do I need to peel right, cover in front of me, cover to the left, cover to the right, does that guy have angle on me, does that guy have angle on me, does that guy have angle on me? In these scenarios where your brain is in overdrive, we want to offload as much as possible to subconscious actions. And you can argue, yes, coming up in a position like this, shooting over the optic to the red dot is subconscious, but it's not subconscious enough. It's not second nature, like picking up this thing. I didn't think I need to clasp my hands to do it. I just did it. And that's the same thing with shooting a rifle like this. I shoot with a fair number of people that aren't in my group. And when I hand them an ACOG RMR, or when they come with an ACOG RMR, and they don't really shoot as much as they think they shoot, a lot of times they'll run one of my drills, and my drills aren't something you can pre-game, right? I don't give you a course of fire, per se. And you can't be like, all right, start over there, ACOG, switch to RMR, and then finish out with the ACOG. You can't think when you're on the line waiting for the beep, all right, I'm going to start with RMR, and then I'm going to switch to the ACOG. Okay, you just get sent right into it, and you have to adjust on the fly. You can kind of see that in my videos. We don't have a course of fire always set up. I mean, sometimes we do, but a lot of times we don't. And I see people with setups like this, and it's slow. Why? Because it's no longer subconscious, right? And they get mentally overloaded in a lot of situations, and they default to the default shooting position, which is this. This isn't like you need more training. You need a lot of training. And I would not be surprised if you ask someone like T-Rex Arms, like the Grantham, like good shooters that we don't hear their names because they're simply competition shooters. I would venture to say most of them prefer the default centerline shooting position as their shooting position. It is the easiest to use, it is easiest to manage recoil in, it's the most intuitive, you name it. And it goes further than that. There are quantifiable downsides to running an optic in the upright position or the offset position on a rifle. In the upright position, right, you will be chin welding. And when you are chin welding, you have reduced recoil control. Or better put, your recoil control is roughly the same, but you will have higher perceived recoil. Why? Because your head is no longer making good contact with the stock or brace or fuck you ATF. And when the gun recoils, the gun will move independently of your head, versus when you're part of the gun, your head will move with your body with the gun. And you're going to get a perception of more recoil. And that slows you down, it makes you less accurate, combined with the fact that most of these dots on top have noticeable parallax, like really noticeable parallax, and you're going to miss some shots that you wouldn't otherwise miss. You're going to be slower, you name it. And thus, I don't really think this is a primary sighting solution. This is for when this doesn't make sense, right? Passive shooting at night, certain offset positions, you name it. But in terms of primary aiming, the thing you default to when you need a shot right here, right now, you're going to default to the centerline position. And you should default to the centerline position because it's the easiest way, in my opinion, to shoot. Now, it's important to disclaim, I'm not a great shooter. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I've done a fair bit, and that's my conclusions thus far, at least. So, understand, keep it with a grain of salt. There are a lot of good shooters that can pull the offset position or the piggyback position off. I guess I need to talk about the piggyback position, or the offset position. This, right? Now this kind of works because we are now centerlined. But now we have another host of issues. Our elbow is going to tend to come out because this is really uncomfortable to shoot and manage and drive because your hand is doing this bullshit, right? And the upright position, yeah, it works, but start trying to peel around cover while using an offset. It's a fucking shit show, right? Both sides, right? If you're peeling left around, right? It's flipped because I'm a lefty. You're peeling left around, you have to expose a lot more of your body. You're peeling right around, and you have to snap your fucking spine in half to get around the piece of cover. And considering most realistic shooting outside of home defense is going to be utilizing cover, otherwise you're fucking dead. I would say the offset positioned red dot is actually worse than the 12 o'clock. And the 12 o'clock, in my opinion, like I said, not very good. Okay, so I've talked to you why I do not really think this is a primary optic. I think this is, in fact, not a primary optic. I think this is a backup/utility solution. Thus, we need to rely on the scope to do a lot of the legwork. I'm going to get so many hate comments for saying a red dot on the piggyback position or the offset is not a primary aiming solution. I fucking love it. Okay, so we're going to now rely on this as the center position. And a lot of people say, yeah, that works. But once again, it comes back to intuitive nature. On the flat range, or even on a semi-unflat range, engaging targets at 25 yards, give or take, 30 yards, 40 yards, in static positions with known targets at distance that are very well silhouetted. Perhaps they're paper and super silhouetted. Those things, like, they pop. Yeah, this works just fine. In fact, it might even work better because it's giving me a little bit of magnification. Works flawlessly. Amazing. Oh, I love it. But the reality is, that's not most shooting. Most shooting, in theory, I have neither been there nor done that. I am someone on the internet that, once again, does not have the self-control not to post this bullshit. So take it for what you will. But a lot of shooting isn't that in practice, and I try to imitate that with my steel targets, how I set up the targets, slightly behind bushes. I don't really spray paint them all that often unless I'm actually wanting to track my hits on the steel target. Most targets blend in with the environment because most humans tend to, depending on the time of week, have a innate desire not to get clapped in the face. It's a thing. So people that we're hypothetically training to go up against, that's why we have this bullshit. It's not to shoot, pigs in Texas. Or maybe it is, who knows? Maybe it is. But it's to engage other humans in the competition of life or death in a gunfight. That's why I think magnification is so good, but simultaneously at medium ranges, 2x becomes a hindrance. Because why? Your right eye and your left eye will not collimate an image. Right? The images won't fuse. If you're really on it in a well-lit environment, you can kind of collimate them such that you see target and you bring it up and it's on target. But what if you're running and gunning, huffing and puffing? What if the lighting condition is fading such that the fact that you have an optic on your gun is beginning to really show itself, right? No optics are perfect, right? This 100% light transmission thing is fucking horseshit. Your images are not collimating. And in a lot of times you will have major issues because what you see through through both of your eyes when you're like this, and then when you bring your scope up, is noticeably different. And this becomes very apparent when the target is camouflaged, when it's dark out, when you're using white light. You name it, it becomes very, very difficult. Most people are going to have more issues than this, and I've seen people have more issues than this. So it's really important to understand how big of a deal it is to have a true or close to true 1x. Here, let's switch rifles, right? I'm getting tired of holding this one. The next aspect, right? We need our 1x, and we really want our 1x in the centerline shooting position. Can we get it done with the 1x in other spots? Yeah. Can we get it done without a 1x? Yeah. But we want to make shooting intuitive, natural, and as part of it, as much of an extension as our body as we can make it. And the firearm was designed to have something in the centerline position, right? That's ultimately what we're getting at here. And this shit does not offer us that. This is not as good as offset. Yes, I know. There's a video on the internet with T-Rex arms with a fucking red dot in this position, a red dot in the offset position, and he shoots both of them as fast. But A, fuck you, you're not T-Rex arms. This doesn't apply to you. And B, that was a pre-set up 3-gun style stage. He could start with the gun in the stock. He was not pieing off of cover. He was not doing all this kinds of stuff. He was not engaging targets that were not silhouetted. You name it. Now, it's not to say this was a bad demonstrator. Not at all. That's not really what the video was saying. But it's also not a good reason to say, hey, an offset red dot is exactly the same as a red dot in the centerline position. If a red dot in the centerline position was not good, then we wouldn't see people using it, and we'd see motherfuckers with Tarkov setups with the offset, and doing that all the time. We don't, because, once again, offsets, ask anyone that does a lot of shooting, Offsets are not the same as a centerline shooting position, nor are 12 o'clock piggybacks. The professional world had ACOGs and piggybacks, and they consciously went away from that because they're like, this isn't the end-all be-all. In fact, there are better ways to do this. Now, I'll talk about ACOGs RMR some other day, because that, you've seen, I've made hundreds. I haven't even made like 100 videos this year. I've made a lot of videos about the ACOG RMR and its upsides, but you have to understand, it's not an LPVO. That red dot on top doesn't suddenly make it comparable to a 1 to 6x. It just doesn't, because that's not how shit works. What the fuck else am I talking about? Oh! Most people could benefit by only having one rifle and configuring that in a general purpose manner. Something like this, right? We have some magnification because magnification is king, right? But we still have our 1x. In this case, this is night vision capable, so we got our laser box on top, and then we have a flashlight, and then a sling, and that's about it. I mean, this is about the most shit you can put on a rifle. There are other versions of this, right? I have nothing wrong with, you want to do even more on your 1x setting, put a fucking red dot on, and then have a magnifier in the back. Understand the magnifier plus a red dot is a weaker magnified option than a dedicated optic, because this is a very compromised, in theory, optic. Wow, sound familiar? But the point is, a lot of people treat firearms a little bit too much like a video game. And I mean that in a good way, because, what I do on these videos where I break things down, that's not too much, that's somewhat gamification as well. So I'm not critiquing you, I'm just saying, the issue with this is, when you go out to the range and you start shooting, you do things, and you find, hey, these things are easy to do. And then you want to push your capability. And perhaps you start doing some long-range shooting, or you're shooting at paper to 0, and you're like, man, this would be a lot easier with magnification. Even when you shoot at long range, right? For example, you have an SPR style setup like this, you get out to 600 yards, and you're like, fuck, I could really use more magnification. Or fuck, my 5.56 cartridge isn't getting the job done. Let's move over to 308. And yes, you are correct. In that instance, you are getting more capability. But it's really important to be super careful to not chase the gamification of shooting and still to keep and let your rifle maintain as a practical shooting implement. Yes, you can now go farther with 308, but most people understand there are downsides to going to 308. A general purpose rifle, such as this thing, right? Our primary objective is medium range and closer performance, because that's the most pressing, the most dangerous, and the most critical fights to quote-unquote win or disengage or whatever from, right? And we want to center our performance around this area. Now, you should train with something like this. The magnification is important in these scenarios, but too much of it is just ridiculous. Yes, now if I put a bigger scope on this, I can, in theory, reach out farther. And there are scenarios where reaching out farther might be beneficial, but I don't think it makes sense if you're sacrificing on your close-range performance to chase that goal of long-range performance. In your pursuit of chasing niche, high-end, long-distance performance on your generalist rifle, you have ceased to own a general-purpose rifle. You have created, in essence, an SPR without a bipod and other stuff, right? So that's ultimately where I think the discussion ends. Yeah, you're gaining performance, but you're also losing the most important performance. And yeah, that's more or less the thought. I said this wouldn't be coherent, and the fact that my camera stopped in the middle of the thing, fucking over my train of thought, did not help the situation. So, apologies. I don't generally do this stuff. I just felt like I wanted to get this off of my chest, and I wanted to do it in this format, so I fucking did it in this format. You can't stop me. I mean, you could stop me, maybe. I don't. Who knows? Soon enough, people are going to realize the 2 to 10x concept also has a shitload of flaws that I've discussed here today, much like the LPVO. I just think the flaws and benefits and strong suits of the MPVO are more suited for a long-range oriented rifle. And for most people, for most skill levels, those benefits don't really manifest as anything useful, and the downsides will really end up fucking you in the ass, to be blunt. Similarly, the LPVO has a lot of downsides too, but a lot of those downsides don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, while the upsides really do matter. if your response to looking at an LPVO and saying, oh, I fucking hate the 1X, why would I run a 1X like that, da 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 da, the answer isn't go get more scope. The answer is run a red dot with a magnifier. Maybe an Elkin. Yeah, my answer to everything is an Elkin. Anyway, that has been more than enough. This has been a stupidly long video, ramblings and stuff. I really want to iterate. This is just one man's experience, and it's not even all that great experience. But I feel like I need to do some due diligence when, I put up a lot of videos and people's responses to those videos are, oh, you're right, LPVOs suck, I'm going to get an MPVO on my general purpose rifle. And I think in a lot of circumstances, people are going to feel let down when they seriously, once you buy it and the honeymoon phase runs out, they're really going to question why they put that much money in a scope system like that, when realistically for most people it's not the ticket. Anyway, so don't chase trends. Yeah. Anyway, this video's out of fucking control. I'm gonna leave you now. I don't think I should ever do this again. This was a terrible fucking idea. Thanks for watching, I guess, and I'll see you guys in the next one.